You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Salam. My name is Sheikh Abdullah, President Chairman of Al-Masjid Sharia Law, a non-profit religious organization operating in the state of Rhode Island, USA. I've been coming to you now for some years with different programs. I want you to understand one thing. I am not a communist, a socialist, a terrorist, any of those things. I'm not a fascist, I'm not a Democrat, not a Republican. I'm a member of Islam. I consider myself an Orthodox, devout Muslim. I don't consider myself part of division in Islam, a split in Islam. I consider Islamic people one union, one group. I consider this being a ummah, one brotherhood, one relationship thing, one sister and brotherhood. So I'm trying to talk to myself, to everyone about this. None of us are completely pure. None of us are so clean that we don't have problems with ourselves. None of us can walk through the stuff that you put on sores that bubbles up, and you put it on the sore, and it bubbles up, fighting the germs. None of us can take a bath in that peroxide and don't bubble. We all have some kind of scratch on our body, some kind of wrong in ourselves, some kind of violation that we are doing, whether it be mental, physical, or spiritual. We all need to repent for some act that we thought of, or some act we've seen, or something we did in the street. So we're not completely pure, myself included. So when I say Muslims have a problem, I'm not particularly talking about one group of Muslims. I'm not talking when I say that Muslims need to brush up on their Islam and what they should do about it. I'm not talking about one group of Muslims. I'm not talking about the Muslims in Chicago, or the Muslims in the Bronx, or the Muslims anywhere, one group. I'm talking about many Muslims. I'm not talking that, like, accusing the brother down around the corner. I'm accusing all Muslims that they're not straightening their deen to straighten it out. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said to the companions, if they don't do, if people, that the believers and the Muslims don't do as I do or as we do, they're not one of us. And that means everything. And also Allah said to him and to the Muslims back then, through him, that he had completed our way of life. And it will be called Islam. And we as the followers will be called Muslims. And later on in degrees we become mu'mins, believers. So when he said completed, means there's nothing else lacking in it. It's full, it's complete. You brothers and sisters know, and people outside that's not Muslim know what complete means, completed. It means there's no ends lacking. There's nothing needed. There's no more you can add on. It's completed. It's done. It's like making a tennis racket. You got the whole tennis racket made, the strings are in there tight, the rim is on, the handle is taped, and all that. Now it goes through the box and get in the box. It's completed. You can't add any more to it. I can't take any more. You don't have the right to do anymore. That is Islam. We don't have the right to try to change Islam. We don't have the right to say we are moderates. We are modern Muslims. Islam is made the same way it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,400 something years ago, 2,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago. It's the same Islam. But we're trying to do all that. We're trying to call ourselves modern. We're trying to take a look of a church. We want to be like the Christians. Now, lately, the last 10 years or 15 years, we want to be democratic. We want to be the Democratic Party in Islam. We want to vote on how many prayers we make. We want to have a democracy going on. And Islam is no longer any good for us. Soul stuff is back ancient. Well, me, myself, and many other brothers and sisters don't feel that way. Do not feel that Islam is old. Islam has outused itself. Islam is falling apart. Islam is not falling apart. It is the followers of Islam that are beginning to fall apart, not Islam. It is the followers that want to put bombs on their chests and run and blow up somebody. It is the followers that want to burn people up alive. It's the followers that want to drink at the same time be Muslims. It's the followers that want to do all this different kind of stuff. It's the followers that want to be moderates and continue to do what they want to do. It's the followers that want to serve their desires. We are worshiping our desires along with Allah. And Allah got a name for that. It's called shirk. That's what we're doing. We're practicing something along with the law. And we have to stop that. We have to begin to change our actions and deeds. So I want you to understand that. Please understand that. I want you to realize that what we're doing is destroying ourselves. We're tearing apart our real life. We're not developing anything of any value in Islam anymore. We don't want to work to build up the Islam anymore. We want to work to build up ourselves. We feel that all we have to do in Islam is to pray and put a little fast on and to go on Hajj and to say that we believe in the law and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. And that's our deen. Tell me, why would a law buy from us our life in this world for a promise of the hereafter, if that's all we had to do was satisfy our own desires and not his? Tell me what master, whether it's the martial arts, Ku Klux Klan, the Boy Scouts, or whoever running something, why would they have you in there if you're not going to follow what they want you to follow? What reason would you be there for? What good would you be? Well, that's what's happening today. Muslims don't want to do what they're supposed to do. They no longer want to work for a law. They no longer want to fulfill the jobs that they were supposed to do by coming into Islam. And many of them don't know why they came into Islam in the first place. Some of them came in to marry somebody. A lot of women came in Islam to get married to a strong religious man. So they took a shahada to do this. And then they turned around doing everything contrary to the shahada. A lot of them came into Islam to look different than everybody else, to wear garments, to have a kufi on their head. Then you had some people who came into Islam to be called different. To be called different than the N-word, a nigger. Or ordinary Negro. So they wanted to be called Muslim instead. Then you had women coming, like I said, women coming to Islam to marry somebody, to get married. Then there was a chosen few that came into Islam to work for Islam because they liked the ideas of what Islam was all about. And so they began to work for Islam, to strive for it, to strive to better it, to try to fulfill their obligations towards the law. Those are the brothers that still fight and trying to hold on. They're not the ones that's asking for modernism, democracy, all the other things that go along with it, communism, socialism, factionism, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. They're not trying to be all that. They're trying to be Muslims, to obey Allah, to do what He commands us to do, regardless to who will be hurt. We are told to tell the truth, even if against our own souls. We no longer want to do that. So it's time for us to get back our acts together, to start to develop the right thing. This is why you see on my programs that come out of Islam, that come out of AMSA. It's basically talking about standing back and doing our work in Islam. I look on TV and on the net and on the computer, and I read the hadiths and all that. There's Muslims walking around out in the street today, calling themselves Muslims, calling themselves believers, calling themselves mu'min, calling themselves mujahideen. And they're giving out shahadas. Shahada is to accept Islam. That's what that means, to accept. One who accepts Islam takes a shahada. It's like a baptism. Only thing without the water. Now they have several shahadas. They have 1 and 2. One is called a short shahada. La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness that there's no God but Allah. And Muhammad ﷺ is his messenger and prophet, the messenger and the prophet. Then there's another shahada. It talks about the belief in the angels, in the books, in the prophets, in the revival of the body and the soul in another world or this world. In the recognition of the judgment day, a judgment day. It's called a long shahada. That's the one that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave out. And the short shahada was given out to those that was getting ready to pass away to Allah. And they was there running around trying to get shahada, trying to become Muslims to them. Those that's in the hospital, sick, that might not make it another hour, but wanted to take a shahada. Because then they take a short one because they don't have time to finish a long one. They don't have time to go through the thing that you're supposed to go through, prepare yourself for a shahada. These short shahadas being given out in the street to strangers, to people that do not conform into the way they're supposed to take it, to what they're supposed to do before taking it. That's very important stuff to do. It's part of the shahada, it's part of the Islam, it's part of the shahada. There's no part of the shahada that you can leave out for a man that's well or a sister that's well. that's able to walk and talk and breathe and eat and all that, and able to come back the next night. That's what Allah. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Those that do not do as I do is not one of us." So he wouldn't give a short shahada to a person unless they were sick, unless they couldn't make it to another one, to the whole full one, because they wouldn't understand what's going on. You can just not be told that a law exists and that there's a law and there's the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu and there's 5 prayers a day and that's it. You got a lot of other stuff you got to be told for you to understand your obligations in Islam. It's very important. It's very important you to take the full shahada, for you understand your obligations in Islam, your responsibilities, for you be able to carry out your duties. So those that are giving out those shahadas, them short shahadas, all of them down the street, to people that didn't even wash their bodies, didn't even wash their hands, didn't wash their face, didn't blow their nose out, didn't rinse their mouths out, didn't shave underneath their arms, didn't shave their pubic hairs. They didn't do none of that. They didn't take a bath. They didn't clean themselves up. They didn't know. Wasn't told what they're supposed to do in Islam, what Islam is all about. Those shahadas are empty. Yes. I see them do it in France. I see them do it in London. I see them doing it in a lot of places overseas. Stopping people in the street and talking to them for 5 minutes and giving them shahada and then saying, "You're a Muslim now." No, you're not. By what the law told to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu and by what he was doing, what he heard from the Prophet from Allah, you haven't done the right shahada. You can't make a malted and don't add the milk, and don't add the ice cream, and don't add the malt, and just take and put some ice cream into a cup and put it underneath a wheel and let it spin in there and call that a malted. That is nothing but syrup, ice cream, spent down to a juice. Ice cream. That's all that is. And it's no longer ice cream. It's ice soup. Ice cream mix down. So how can you call shahada that does not follow the things that's supposed to go along with shahada, be a shahada, and don't have them, not placed on you? How can you call that a shahada? And I'm saying this on television. I'm saying this not only on television, I'm saying this to 1,000,000-something people just in Rhode Island alone that can look at this program. I'm saying this to the people in New England that see this program. People in part of Massachusetts that see this program. People in part of Connecticut that see this program. I'm saying that the people that Verizon and Cox put on their network, that they go to millions of people up and down New England, and they put on their network. I'm saying it's to billions of people that look at the internet, that see this program, that these brothers are wrong doing this. And this is a violation of the Islam again. But yet they're doing it in the name of Islam. They're doing this in the name of Islam. They're doing this. They saying this is all, they doing this because They supposed to build up the Islam. That's not right. That's not true. They saying this. They saying this. But Islam is saying it's not. Bismillah. Islam is saying it's not. Bismillah. I'm saying this on the television and on the internet. And this is the thing that Muslims right now are supposed to do, because Allah said to purify your deen, keep it pure. Keep it clean. Do what's supposed to be done righteous, right. Be justice. Be sincere. Don't try to fool people. That's what Allah says to Muslims. And I'm not trying to fool anyone. People are walking around and saying that I'm the sick one. I have a beef or I'm talking like this. I'm mad at the world. I'm not mad at the world. I know how to live in the world. I know that I can live on the block, but there's non-Muslim people on this block, and I know the position I must take to protect myself as a Muslim. And I get a lot of respect from the non-believers, and the Christians and the Jews and all that. I get a lot of respect from them. I'm quite sure that they realize that I'm not a nut. I'm not a bug. And that I'm talking against things that they, in turn, are told to stand up against. I've been talking against terrorism of any kind. When bin Laden and those people were fighting the Russians, and everybody was giving them arms and guns and all that to fight, I was talking against terrorism at that time. I was talking against people terrorizing people, and one of the biggest terrorizers in the history of mankind, one of the biggest, is Adolf Hitler. He terrorized nations up and down Europe. He terrorized the Jews. He terrorized the blacks in this country. He tried to terrorize Joseph Owens. He tried to terrorize Jim Thorpe. He didn't like Joe Louis. Hitler didn't like himself either. That's a fact. So he was a terrorist. I talked about him too when I was younger. I didn't like his style. So I'm telling you, and I'm going to tell you my people, and I tell myself, we must straighten our act up and do what we're supposed to do as Muslims. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, ar-Rahmanir Rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin, amin. Sadaqallahu al-azim.